In a forgotten corner of Europe, there once lived a man so feared. His name was rarely spoken aloud, a ruler surrounded by blood-soaked legends, whispers of forests made of corpses, and enemies who vanished without a trace. No one knows where the myth ends and the truth begins. But one thing is certain: this was no ordinary monster. This was real. The year is 1431. A child is born in the dark heart of Transylvania, a land of jagged mountains, silent forests, and deeper secrets. He would come to be known by many names, but none more feared than the one whispered centuries later: Dracula. His father belonged to a brotherhood few dared defy, the Order of the Dragon. Its mission: defend Christendom from the rising tide of the Ottoman Empire. But behind its noble cause lay ambition, blood, betrayal. As a boy, he was taken, not kidnapped but offered up, a hostage to the Ottoman Sultan, a pawn in a game of empires. There, in the golden halls of his enemies, he learned their language, their customs, their weaknesses. But captivity did something else. It twisted something inside him. He would never be powerless again. Years later, he returned home to find his father murdered, his older brother buried alive, his family betrayed by their own nobles. Wakia, his homeland, was a land of chaos, and he would bring order by any means necessary. In 1456, he seized the throne with fire in his heart and vengeance in his hand. And when foreign envoys refused to remove their hats in his court, he ordered them nailed to their skulls. This was only the beginning. To rule, he would use fear itself as a weapon. And from the blood-soaked soil of Wakia, a legend would rise, one that would outlive kingdoms and haunt the world for centuries to come. By 1462, the Ottoman Empire was no longer just a threat. It was at the gates. Sultan Mehmed II, the same man who conquered Constantinople, had set his sights on Wakia. An empire versus a single prince, outnumbered, surrounded. But Vlad didn't retreat. He planned something else, something that would send shockwaves through history. Under the cover of darkness, Vlad led a small force deep into the Ottoman camp. He moved like a shadow, silent, calculated, ruthless. Their mission wasn't conquest, it was chaos. Vlad's men slipped past guards, ignited tents, slaughtered soldiers in their sleep. Their target, the Sultan himself. And for a few blood-soaked minutes, the fate of an empire teetered on a knife's edge. They didn't kill Mehmed that night, but they killed hundreds, maybe thousands. And more importantly, they shattered the illusion of Ottoman invincibility. When the sun rose, what remained was devastation. The scent of fire and blood clung to the air, but that was only the prelude. As Mehmed's army advanced toward Vlad's capital, they found something waiting for them. A forest, but not of trees, of bodies. Thousands of corpses, impaled on tall wooden stakes. Turkish soldiers, traitors, thieves. Anyone who dared oppose him. Their limbs twisted, faces frozen in agony, lining the road for miles. It wasn't just execution, it was psychological warfare, and it worked. The Sultan turned back. Wakia was spared, not by armies, but by terror. Vlad had weaponized fear itself, but the cost of such power was yet to come, because even monsters have enemies. Victory has a price. Though the Sultan retreated, Vlad's war was far from over. For every invader he repelled, there were whispers in his own court, blades hidden behind smiles. The boyars, Wakian nobles, had betrayed his father. Now, he would return the favor. One Easter morning, Vlad invited them all to a grand feast. There was music, wine, laughter, and then chains. He seized the entire noble class, men, women, children. Some were impaled that same day. Others were marched to the mountains, forced to build his fortress at Ponari, stone by stone, until their hands bled dry. Vlad ruled not by loyalty, but by fear. And though it brought order, it also brought enemies. Hungary, once an uneasy ally, turned against him. The king, Matthias Corvinus, accused Vlad of crimes too horrific to ignore. He was captured, imprisoned for over a decade. But legends don't fade so easily. From his cell, Vlad plotted his return, and when chaos swept Wallachia once more, they begged him to come back. He returned to the throne in 1476, but the world had changed. His enemies had grown bolder, his allies fewer. That winter, Vlad disappeared. Some say he died in battle, others claim betrayal by his own men. His head was sent to the Sultan, a final trophy, but his body was never found. And that's where the line between history and myth begins to blur. Because how do you kill a man who's already become a legend? Centuries passed, and yet the name lived on. Vlad al-Tralia, Vlad Tepes, Vlad Dracula. A ruler, a warlord, a butcher, or something more? In 1897, an Irish author named Bram Stoker stumbled upon the name Dracula while researching Eastern Europe. He borrowed it, not the history, not the facts, just the name and the fear that came with it. In his novel, Count Dracula was no war hero. He was something darker, something eternal. A creature who fed on blood, lived in shadows, and haunted the night. A vampire. But the real Dracula didn't need fangs to be feared. He used real blood, real screams, real forests of death. And in some ways, that made him far more terrifying. To Romanians, Vlad is still seen by many as a national hero, a leader who stood against impossible odds. To others, he's a symbol of tyranny, cruelty, madness. But what remains certain is this: his story was never meant to survive. Empires tried to erase him, enemies tried to bury him, time tried to forget him, but Vlad refused to die. Even now, tourists flock to Transylvania searching for his castle. Writers, filmmakers, and scholars argue over who or what he truly was. And deep in the ruins of Poenari, the fortress built with the bones of his enemies, the wind still howls through empty towers. A reminder that sometimes legends are carved not in myth, but in blood. And sometimes the dead don't stay buried.